This is Kanan.
Sorry.
Well, there's one big major cut.
I don't know. I spaced.
What is up, Geeky Saying Army? It's Kanan.
It's Jessie.
And we are the Geeky Saying couple, and welcome to an all-new analysis of RWBY Volume 8. Feels like forever since we've done one. Please excuse Crow. He looks like a corpse, but he's not dead. Before we get started, I want to really stress, please watch this before you watch our reaction, because something happens at the very beginning of this episode that we completely marked out on and didn't realize that we were wrong until after we saw the episode. Because when you watch these episodes in reactions the first time, you don't catch everything. So it's only when we go back and watch these, rewatch it or go over the analysis that we realize stuff, or people say stuff on Twitter.
And we're not the only ones in the fandom that did this time either.
Yeah, but it was so strange. Like, part of this episode was like a blur to me. Like, I did not even see it happen when it happened. Like, I blacked out almost. We'll get to it. It happens right here at the very beginning. So please watch this before you watch our reaction. Also, of course, we are going to be talking about spoilers. So if you've not seen the episode, wait until you've seen it, then watch this, then go watch our reaction. Also, we stated this in the reaction, but people will see this first. Thank you to our new Patreon supporter, Nightshade. I believe he signed up for the $5. I think you told me. So thank you very much. And thank you to all of our other Patreon supporters. If you want to support us on Patreon, it's down the link in the description. Thank you to all of our subscribers. So this was Chapter 8 after the long 6-week mid-season hiatus. And the description was, "We're not alone." So I already had like just that alone, plus the thumbnail. We were in for a horror-themed episode, and that's pretty much what we got. I said in the reaction, if RWBY ever decides to do a horror series, they're pretty good at delivering it. Like, my heart rate was like up after watching this episode. So we start off with Crow laying on his bunk in his cell, and you're hearing what is pretty much what we think at first is the sound of battle. Like, that's gotta be like an unnerving thing if you were like in a cell being held prisoner and like there's a battle going on outside. Like,
and you can't do anything. Yeah,
like you're probably sitting there thinking, well, when's this thing going to cave in and me be buried alive, because of bombs and all that going off. And he's pretty much jolted by the sound of what sounds like bombs going off. He looks at Jacques. What? Jacques and Watts are they're the same person. They're brothers. He looks at Watson. We get this shot of Jacques, who is very
patiently, like,
I think
anxious.
It's that, or he's really nervous because his legs are doing the jitters, and he's like just trying to comfort himself, I think.
Well, look on the thing. He's just annoyed. He's his whole "I shouldn't be here."
Yeah.
Yeah, see, he looks pissed off, too. Like, he's just, "I shouldn't be here. Someone should be getting me out already."
And,
or his son. That's another thing. He thought Whitley was gonna come get him.
And Robin being all cute, I can't sleep either because of what's going on outside. Like, and how could you sleep with the knowing what's going on outside? So she said it sounds bad out there. But here's the thing. Crow's like, wait a minute.
That doesn't sound like...
Yeah, it's like, that's not coming from far away. That's getting closer and closer. And Watts is like, oh shit. Because I think he thinks the same thing, like a bomb's about to go off. And that's exactly what happens. A large explosion. from outside, and Crow says get down, and he pretty much gets it looks like they all get engulfed by the explosion. And I really like this like animated, it's the smoke and like I guess you could say the breeze or whatever that's caused by the explosion. It was very well animated. I liked how it looked.
It also shows not all the cells were taken down.
Yeah. Now, here's the thing, though, by what happens here in a minute. Look right here. Crow is still there. He's still there. It almost, like, here's the thing. It looks like, it's weird, because it looks like his and Robin's cell are still up right here. Where I'm guessing Watts was right here, but where was Jacques? I don't see Jacques' cell either.
Wait a minute. I'm trying to remember how they were all positioned.
Well, it's just
because where Crow was sitting, like it's hard to tell because of where he's sitting. But Robin was right in front of him on one side, and Jacques was on the other. So Jacques is still intact too. We
just don't see it. I'm guessing, but the way he was facing, I figured Watts was right here, and then Robin's over right in here, but it looks like their cells are still working. It looks like only Watts's, and like I said, human form Crow is still sitting here. And then we see, apparently Robin looks, and then we see because we've looked at screenshots after seeing the episode. This is definitely Crow's bird form. But here's what confuses me, though. Okay, so we're going to go admit, we thought this was Raven. We, popped for this, but here's the thing. So much happened, I don't remember seeing Robin at all. I don't remember seeing Robin looking at the Crow. I don't remember seeing Robin looking up and then bracing herself for the thing about to collapse. I just saw the explosion aftermath and then this bird. That's all I saw.
But the thing is, what's difficult is it looks like crows, but it's so shadowed. It's hard to see the rest of the body. But from the pictures that I've seen in the past of both Crow and Raven's bird form, they're both similar. They both have red eyes in that form, and their shape's similar. And the thing is, but the thing is I
don't think she's got the feathers.
The things on the top of her head, you don't see them. Like whenever I've seen pictures of her or in the show, you can't really see them. We've not had a good angle of her bird yet.
See if I can catch it, because yeah, see, I don't remember this. I don't remember seeing Robin at all. It's like I blacked out or something.
I barely remember this. And
I thought the episode messed up because I went back and watched it and saw Robin. I was like, I don't remember that happening at all. But Jess, in editing the video, says, yeah, it's there. I just don't remember seeing it. But here's the thing. Before it cuts to Robin, we see Crow still in his human form, and then this happens, and it's almost like, why would Crow transform into his Crow form when really that doesn't do anything for Robin? Because now looking back on it, it really does look like her cell is still active.
And so is Jacques.
Yeah, but I mean,
Jacques is on the other side of hers. That's.
But it does cave in, and then when it goes back later, they're all gone. They're not there anymore. So it's like, why did Crow transform if it wasn't going to help Robin at all? Because he can't carry a full-size person. And so, I don't know.
No, I'm pretty sure in the very beginning episodes, the bird Ruby hit was him. I'm pretty the way it was shaped, how raggedy he was, that was Crow. So I mean,
either it is Crow and we're just looking way too much into it, or there's some trickery being done by RWBY here, because it's really odd, because the explosion, like I said, does not take out his or Robin's cell, it looks like. And when you see after the explosion, before we see the bird, Crow is still sitting there in his human form. So unless in a split second he transformed for enough...
Which he can, but the thing is it looks like he's outside.
Yeah, like I just don't know. I don't know what's going on. I'm not going to sit here and say 100% that because it seems like at the end when Cinder gets Watts, it's like it's almost like she just got there and like she's seeing the aftermath of something she didn't cause, because she kind of does give a look like what happened here, and plus both Robin and Crow are gone by the time it shows her. So I don't know.
Unless Robin's got a secret that she could form into a bird, I don't know. But I'm highly doubting that. But the thing is I did see some things saying, well, if it was Robin, or if it was Raven, we would have seen her portal. No, technically, we probably wouldn't have, because she could have teleported somewhere else near him outside the building and
blasted a hole. Because Raven can Raven use fire? I know
as her semblance, yeah, I think so.
Because I remember her mostly using ice and all that against Cinder, but I don't know. Like,
but she's not the Winter Maiden.
I know. It's very, very, the way it's shot and it's so fast. It's like it's real. They made it really hard for us to see. But the thing is even if that is Crow, it's like, for me, if it is Crow, it makes no sense because
it doesn't. But to me, that's seeing Crow transform like that. It's like, okay, get you thinking. All right, there's another person that can do this, which means that, I mean, to me, it just hints that there might be more to this whole Raven theory. I still think there is. I agree with Cal and Hunter on that too. Not necessarily at this point, like here, but also here's another thing. Maybe Crow could have transformed. Maybe he has another connection to Raven that way. So when he transforms, she could possibly feel it. They're twins.
Yeah, it just
so maybe he did that to signal her, and we didn't see her show up. Maybe the next episode we'll see her show up and get him out.
Maybe, but like
we've got overlapping with the episodes.
Yeah, because with me, like I said, it just makes no sense for him to transform right here because, yeah, he could fly out, yeah, but he's not going to leave Robin behind, and him transforming there doesn't do her any good. He can't carry her.
Unless he's got some secret to his transforming that he could do something like RWBY, but I doubt it.
Yeah, like it's like I said, I think it's way too soon to say what's exactly going on here, because it's like this part of the episode and at the very end when we see Cinder, things aren't matching up in a way.
We're missing pieces.
Yeah, so like I said, please watch this before you watch our reaction, because yeah, we were convinced it was Raven. We talked about it all throughout the episode, at the end of it, that was Raven. A lot of people are saying no, it's Crow, but there's details here that a lot of people are not pointing out, and it's the fact that the blast did not take out Crow and Robin's. Now, unless it's a mess up that RWBY made for Crow to be still sitting there in his human form, we don't know yet. But it just, like I said, with her still being in her cell, there was really no point in them showing us transformed Crow.
Yeah, unless
he got out of there and he wasn't able to get her out.
Unless he can get up over the wall.
But I mean, still, if he does that, there's nowhere for them to go unless the cell went down.
I know that what I'm saying is unless he got into hers and that they did something happen from that point. But like I said, I don't know. And
there's too much info missing.
Yes, and here's the thing, and it's not like we're gonna completely miss out on those pieces. We just don't have them yet because, again, remember this is taking over the course of a couple days. Like this episode alone, we still have other pieces from the other teams on what's going on.
Yeah, so
it's these episodes are continuously overlapping.
Which makes it really hard to put two and two together
because they're going back and forth within the same time frame. Which that's why this is making this so hard.
Yeah, because like there are still some unknowns here that I just don't think we have the whole picture yet. Is it Raven?
Does she actually look down at the bird?
I think it does. I think that's why. Yeah, it's like I'm guessing because it looks like. Because it says a crow cawing, so she would look and be like, what the heck is a crow doing in here? And then, she looks up and it crashes in on her, but that's all we see until the very end of the episode. So, I don't know. I think, can I say it's Raven 100%? No. can I say, like, but there's more to that than what we're seeing, and we'll get to that when we get to the very end of it. But we need to move on.
But like I said, there also is, if it is Crow, there might be a chance that him transforming into his bird form may be able to activate some connection he has to Raven. Because they say even in the real life, twins have some type of odd connection between the two of them.
So next part is Nora finally waking up, and then they bring in Penny, who is, as Blake is saying, leaking. So did not totally catch this in the reaction, but I did rewatching it for this analysis. Pay attention to the characters who get Penny's blood on them, I guess you could call it, because that comes into play during this episode. So Klein is there to take care of Nora, and so they bring Penny in because, you know, she crash land conveniently right in front of Schnee Manor. So they bring her in so Klein can look after her. And so, yeah, Ruby, Weiss, and Whitley have all got Penny's blood all over them. Blake does not, because Blake did not help carry her. So keep that in mind as this goes on. So they ask Klein if he can do anything for Penny, which, you know, Penny is not flesh and blood. But it's like he looks over her and says that her anatomy is very close to them, and then says that he could at least patch up her wounds. So does this, because in volume 1 or 2, when she stopped the truck and we saw her hands, at that time it looked like almost like her skin was paper thin in a way, like you could just, like, it was like one of those scratch it with a quarter and it would go away kind of thing. But, you know, different time, different animation style, you know, different engine they were using. Is Penny's skin like,
she's more human now that she's, it seems, because when he scans over her, I don't know if you can catch that, but
no, I
when
can't. I tried.
When he scans over her, she has more human anatomy than she did to begin with.
Yeah.
Because the only way I know that is when Cinder was looking over the plans she hacked into of Penny originally, she was more robotic. Now she's a little bit different. Yeah, she's still a robot.
I wonder if she's got like this thin synthetic skin or whatever. Kind of like, you know, how in most movies where it's like an android or some, like the androids in Dragon Ball. Like, you know, they've got skin, or like they were human, they were just altered. But then you got, like, you know, Terminator with like this robotic skeleton with, you know,
think about prosthetics too.
Yeah,
that's got the same concept.
But here's the thing: is it able to regenerate like our skin does? Because, you know, when you get hurt and you get like stitches or a bandage, you put it over.
Knowing who her father is, there's a possibility that it has the technology.
And plus, she has an aura, so she has some kind of healing capability. And then, of course, as they're talking, the power goes out, and I love Whitley's reaction, because that's everybody's reaction when the power goes out. It's like, that's just great, you know?
Well, that's rich.
Yeah, that's rich. And so May gets a hold of them because she says that the kingdom is getting bombed even more, in which Ruby fills her in that, you know, looks like half the city has lost power. I love this shot. Like, this looks like a space battle almost.
Almost, yeah.
Like, there is just a lot going on. There's bombs going off everywhere. You know, you got the dark cloud of the storm that Salem brought in. Like, it's like the end of the world out here. Really pretty shot of May.
Yeah, it is. And another thing with this whole scene, like, because we saw how they had
a little argument in chapter 7.
Argument they had, and the way, you know, with them, you know, them staying stuff back and forth. This shows right here that, yeah, they have a difference, but they're still, you know, the whole still working together. May understands that why they're still staying there and doing things, but she left them to do it, and she's continuing on the plans on her end.
Which she even apologizes that she had to leave.
Which shows that they have, like I said, again, they obviously are maintaining their understanding.
Yeah.
You know, but I mean, And at this point, I mean, it'll
And
say that she doesn't know what to do. I mean,
yeah, and RWBY even says, once we find out what's wrong with Penny, we'll do something. And May says, you know, tells her not to beat herself up. And at this point, she doesn't know how much left is, like, it's bad. Like, it's like you've already lost the war in a way, kind of thing. Like,
that's how it's feeling, because they're trying to work, they're split apart, still trying to work together and, you know, maintain whatever they can to try and save as much as they can. And it's just, right now, it's at that point where it looks like there is no way out, no matter which way you go. But
now, right here, this is kind of something that's been building since Volume 7, and that is RWBY constantly second-guessing what she's been doing as a team leader. Her confidence is at an all-time low. And when you have you know, all four of them are the main protagonists, but RWBY has always been kind of put in the spotlight as the main hero of the story. And this is pretty much the part of the hero's journey where the hero is questioning if they can keep putting on the good fight, because
regardless of what happens, somebody is turning around and ruining things, and she feels like she's making all the wrong choices.
I mean, to the point where even her own sister questioned her decisions, and she's just saying it's all too much, you know. The Grimm, the Crater, just all, you know, Penny, it's
Nora.
Nora, it's all too much for them to handle. How are they going to fix all this? And see, that's the thing. RWBY is not looking for a way for them to get out, for them to run away. She is trying her best to find a way to fix all of this, which is a very heavy burden for any main protagonist to have.
She needs, like, what she's not seeing is, she wants to save everybody, just like everybody wants that too. But the thing is what she's not seeing is, to do that, you have to start with one thing, then that leads to another. If that doesn't work, you try to find something else that fixes that to move on. Like, you have to do it in a...
You're pretty much regurgitating what Klein says.
Well, yes, but it's like you have to do it in a process, and then she's not seeing that.
She gets a little comforting from Weiss, and then Klein says, you know, one step at a time.
After he kept changing his...
Yeah, because he is based off the 7 dwarves. He's all 7 dwarves in one body.
And changes with a sneeze.
Yeah. So he pretty much says you can't worry about fixing everything all at once. You've got to, you know, it's kind of like baby steps. Do one thing at a time. And he says the best place to start would to be getting the power back on. And then that's, you know, RWBY's like, you know, well, you know, how? And Willow finally decides to show herself and says that there's a generator near the edge of the estate, which Whitley's like, you know, oh, you know, nice of you to join us, Mom. And she's like, you know, believe it or not, I am above drinking in the dark. Now, some people have noticed this little interaction that her and Klein have. People are wondering if maybe they were having an affair.
I don't know if I'd go that far. But,
I don't think there's enough here right now to say that, but it's not out of the realm of possibility, because knowing the kind of marriage that Jacques and Willow have, someone's keeping her happy.
But also, wow.
I'm sorry.
Anyways,
I couldn't resist.
But the thing is I'm pretty sure Willow knows that out of everybody, all the staff they had, he was taking care of them.
Yeah, pretty much.
So, I mean, she's obviously, I know she'd probably be grateful, and she had no say in him leaving.
Yeah. So that's when...
She may feel like it's her fault, too, because she didn't step in.
Yeah. So this is when Weiss, you know, speaks up that the SDC executives have their own auxiliary power supplies, meaning pretty much the SDC executives, if their power goes out, they have their own power to put their power back on, stuff like that. And she even brings up how unfair it is to everyone. But, you know, as of right now, it's probably not a bad thing that they have that option. Now, here is probably one of the, this is probably one of the best character like development of anyone.
Yeah.
So, because of all people, Whitley brings up that they can
He says,
use.
he goes, it's not just a perk. We're the company. Like, it's theirs.
Yeah,
so,
but
I mean,
and like so pretty much Whitley brings up that they have several of these cargo ships that are just sitting around because of the embargo. All they got to do is get onto their father's computer, give the order, and they can use those ships to get the people.
The ships, the drones,
to the people in the crater. So this was like, holy crap, I no longer want to call him Shitley.
Yeah, it's like, and I think I said in the reaction too, it made a lot of sense. Like, as closely as he was following in his father's footsteps, and now that he's seeing the reality of what kind of monster his father is.
Well, also the end of the world happening.
Well, yes. I meant, in addition to that, he's everything that his father's shown him and trying to guide him, after his father's out of the picture, he goes, well, wait a minute, I have skills now because of him that I can get into all this, since the company was going to be given to him.
Yeah.
So it's definitely paying off, and it's definitely a huge family rebuild moment for them as well throughout this episode.
So Ruby says that's a really good reason to get the power back on, which, yeah, it is. So her and Blake run out to where the generator is. Now, this to me was really, really creepy. There's this really creepy music. You got this storm. It's dark. Like, I felt like I was watching an animated episode version of Resident Evil because, the mansion and all that. Like, this was pure horror movie or horror game fuel.
With everybody in the crater, I had mentioned that there has to be something that we would see that would get them all out of the crater, since that would make it easier. So, well, this answered that whole thing that I had said was gonna happen.
So Ruby and Blake go to get the power back on, and Ruby is just worried that it's not going to work because nothing else seems to be working. And it's once again one of these moments where it's been a while since I've watched Volume 6. I can't remember any times Ruby doubting herself in Volume 6, because Volume 6 was like her volume of her giving the inspirational speeches and all that, because there was a lot of them in Volume 6. But starting Volume 7, Ruby has kind of had this character arc where she is constantly questioning herself, and her confidence has been at an all-time low, especially since the ending of Volume 7.
6 kind of had the whole thing with her unsure that what she could do with herself because she wasn't fully understanding her eyes.
Yeah.
So, which she got that thanks to Maria, and now she can do it.
Yeah, she can do it at will at this point.
But so there was that. She was doubting herself and the ability to pretty much evolve her semblance. Well, not her semblance, but her ability.
So pretty much this whole sequence is Blake pretty much giving her a confidence booster, a pep talk, if you will. And I think throughout the volume, I think they should probably have Weiss do it as well. And then when they reunite, Yang will as well, telling her, hey, something like, I'm sorry, I should have never doubted you, blah, blah, blah. Like, have each member of Team RWBY let Ruby know.
Give them their piece in this.
But I also like this because we got a little bit more of Blake coming out about her backstory, about how she kind of sees part of herself in Ruby before Adam did to her what he did and stuff like that. And it also kind of harkens back to their meeting in Volume 1, going all the way back to Volume 1 when they first met.
Such animation with the ears. Yeah. I absolutely love it.
And I love how she brings up that it was strange at first looking up to a girl that was younger than her, but and that she still does look up to Ruby. And so this was really needed because one of the biggest complaints people have always had about Team RWBY is that Blake and Ruby just do not interact a lot. Now, I think people forget about certain moments in past volumes where they did address each other. Now, of course, I can't remember exactly. Like, when we go back and watch volumes 1 through 6, I'll make sure to point them out. But, Volume 6 was not the first time that Ruby and Blake interacted. There was a couple of times, but they never had a full scene of talking. And like going back, ever since Team Ruby reunited at the end of Volume 5, Blake has shown more and more support of Ruby. Like beginning of Volume 6, what's the plan, Ruby? Beginning of Volume 7, we'll follow your lead, Ruby, you know, and stuff like that. So they've been sprinkling little parts of showing that Blake is 100% behind Ruby being the leader and following Ruby's lead. And, you know, now we're finding out that this whole time she has looked up to Ruby, because Ruby, even being younger than them, has accomplished a lot and has had to go through a lot since the beginning of the series. So this was a very much needed, I'm trying to get this one. Okay, I can't get it. But like, all in all, this is just a really good character interaction. Like it's building more of a sister relationship between Ruby and Blake, something that I personally have wanted to see since the ending of Volume 6, because with them still building Blake and Yang as a romantic relationship, they really need to start building Blake and Ruby's relationship. You know, if Blake's going to be in a relationship with Yang, she needs to have more of a relationship with Ruby than she's had, where they barely talk.
But it also dual builds other aspects of this as well as, you know, that it also builds the relationship between them as friends, but also relationship as their, you know, the family of their team.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so it's just an overall all around needed moment, just like you know, for the rest of the teams. It's gonna happen in pieces. I mean, it should. So, but it was just so important for something like this to happen between them, whether it be because of the Blake and Yang build up, because of, you know, their friendship from the, you know, because she talked about it from the start, and them as a whole team, like as their own family. So it's definitely a huge moment that was needed, and it's definitely the start of the rest of them.
Well, also the whole point of this scene was, you know, Blake saying how much she sees in Ruby that she used to be, a callback to them meeting in Volume 1, but also it's Blake trying to install confidence back into Ruby.
Yeah.
You know, saying, hey, you know, things may be looking bad, but, you know, you're doing what you can, you know. That's the whole point of this. I know Ladybug shippers went crazy over this.
It's a cute moment too.
Yeah, it is. I mean, you know, and if you do ship Ladybug, then hey, this was a great moment for you. Me, in my personal opinion, does not see this as a romantic interaction. I don't think it was built that way, and I don't think and that's not because we're Bumblebee shippers, you know. That has nothing to do with it.
Point of view.
Yeah, you know, this, you know, it just, I don't want to say much more of it. This was a character building scene, because, you know, it kind of would not make any sense for them to start building something like that between Ruby and Blake when they've been building stuff between Blake and Yang for like years now. But yeah, it was a very, very good scene. It needed at least one of the other members, whether it be Blake or Weiss. Like, this could have been Weiss, but
I think Weiss is next though.
Yeah. And but it's pretty much, I think it's Ruby saying, yeah, we need a more of a one-on-one between Ruby and Blake, but also to set them more up as, you know, future sisters-in-law. But yeah, it was a really, really nice scene, one that definitely needed to happen. So
we learned that the candles are
electric
candles.
It might be dust, I'm not sure, but
it probably is, but it would still go through an electrical charge to ignite it.
Yeah, that blew me away, because I remember seeing the mid-season trailer and seeing those candles go on all by themselves. I was like, what is going on there? But yeah, apparently they're electrical,
which would make sense that they were, if there was infused with dust, because
yeah, here it is.
I mean, Schnee Dust Company.
Yeah, and that was,
so those candles are just made of dust.
It's a really creepy picture. But so they're in, you know, Whitley is trying, you know, he's being a computer whiz and all that, and things are going great until The Hound shows up, and that's when things start to go a little kind of bad. It was so funny here. Willow is reaching for, I'm just gonna assume it's vodka because it's clear.
It probably is.
And like her hands are shaking. So I don't know if she's trying to go cold turkey a little bit and like it's getting like all the stress and all that is getting to her. Or she's just really drunk right now. I just don't know. I don't have enough knowledge to go off of why she, like, maybe she's just scared. Maybe. Cause yeah, right here, like her hands are like really badly shaking. And so Ruby gets a hold of Weiss saying, a Grimm has showed up. Weiss says, can you handle this? And Whitley's like, if you can handle that. And she's like, we still need to work on your attitude. He may be doing good, but he's still got, we still need to work on your attitude. That was funny. So yeah, this was really, suspenseful in a way, cause this thing is so strong that it's literally almost taking their auras out in one blow. So yeah, this thing is very, very strong. He's a very strong puppy. And, I didn't get it here, but like Blake states, it's just a Grimm. I'm like,
it's just a Grimm. Just focus.
Yeah. It's like, well, and I think Ruby does attempt to try and use her silver eyes, but, Blake can't hold this thing off long enough. And so, okay, so let's see here. Blake's fighting animation here was really, really amazing, and Aaron did a lot of good voice work here. So, and they're telling Klein, keep everyone there. We'll let you know when everything's good, and it just keeps getting worse because Penny Ultron wakes up. Like it was not good. It's really suspenseful. And she literally, and Willow books it. Like she just gets terrified and runs away. And I don't know if I caught it here. No, she just stands up like out of nowhere.
Up there she goes.
And she yeets Klein and
over a chair.
Yeah, and she tries to leave, but then Penny starts fighting it.
I noticed something when he scanned over her.
What?
Like, yeah, it pointed out the wound, but I think it pointed out where.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Where
I know where
the
you're going
connection
here.
Would need to be broken. But it's.
But the thing is, sorry, keep going.
When, as her, like, I had been saying something about, when we had talked about the theories of, hacked Penny and all that. I mean, yeah, we already knew it was going to happen either way, but I had definitely said things about, her will to fight things, to, wanting to do what's right. And she knows that whatever's trying to take over her isn't right. And it shows in this episode that, and that's why I kept saying that I really think in the end it's going to be Ruby that fully brings her out of this. And she'll probably think of her father. And that's probably what's going to be able to do something about, the whole switching back and forth hacked thing. Mm-hmm. I mean, we'll have to see more, but I really remember seeing something when Klein scanned over her, and it wasn't just the wound.
But Weiss shows up, and I don't think I got it, but like she actually summons wings, and a lot of people said it was a Nevermore, but the thing is, wasn't it stated that Weiss has to defeat the enemy herself to be able to summon them? Or does she just have to be there when it's defeated to be able to use the glyph of it? Because if so, she's never beaten a Nevermore all by herself.
I'm not sure.
I can't remember exactly. Remember. I just know that it has to do something with an enemy that she defeats, she can summon, but she didn't fight. Did she find a Nevermore in Volume 4 during the whole? I don't think so. I think the big Grimm she fought in the air was like an insect in a way, wasn't it? I don't remember.
I'm not sure. I know she fought. That's like a Lancer.
Yeah, like it's been so long since I've watched 4.
The thing with the horns, like the curled horns looking thing that she had sent during the dinner party. Mm-hmm. There's that one too. So, I mean, it's really, we don't know everything that she's totally fought with on and off screen.
But some other Grims show up, and this thing literally grabs Ruby and like looks like it's going to fly off with her. And I was automatically thinking, oh my God, it's the Wizard of Oz thing. But here's the thing. Like, I didn't get it here, but when Ruby wakes up, she looks at herself and she looks at Penny's blood all over her. That is why it was almost about to carry Ruby off. It smells Penny's blood. The reason why it doesn't go after...
keeps saying, take the girl.
Yeah, but the reason why it doesn't go specifically after Blake is because Blake doesn't have any honor. And the reason why it doesn't go specifically after Weiss, because Weiss is there, but it catches a glimpse of Penny using her power, because her powers activate while she's trying to fight off the hack, and that's when it finally lets go of Ruby, and Ruby says, it's not after me, it's after Penny. And when it drops Ruby like a bad habit, it busts her aura. So that's another thing we gotta keep in mind for the rest.
The thing is did it shatter? Or
yes,
did
it shattered.
I couldn't remember if hers shattered or if it just cracked.
No, it cracked the first time. It shattered here.
Blake's is the one that cracked. It didn't shatter.
And so does Weiss's, because Weiss fights it a little bit inside the manor. So we gotta keep that in mind, because these episodes there's not a lot of time going in between them. So, their auras are either down or gone. So we've got to keep that in mind.
And we know their aura rebuilds, but I mean, because obviously we've seen
but we don't know
the time frame.
Yeah.
But the thing is throughout these last few days, their aura has been broken or at least weakened, like at least once or twice for a couple of them, and they've obviously still managed to get it back. But now,
but this
Ruby's I know shattered, but I meant
it's the fact that this volume only takes the course over 2 days, and we're just at the nighttime portion of one of the days, so not a lot of time's gone by. Not like maybe a couple of hours. I don't remember how long it takes for an aura to fully regenerate, but I don't know. So here's the big bad new Grim that was teased, and it is, as Blake says, very gross looking. Like, it's like,
did it have to get more disgusting?
Yeah, like when we first saw it in the mid-season trailer, all we saw was the head, so it kind of looked like a dinosaur or something away, but it actually is kind of more insect-like. It's got this sack of like acidy slime that it uses. It's very gross. So here's Penny still fighting off the hack, and Nora grabs her hand, saying no one's going to make you do anything you don't want to. It's just, and Penny said, but part of me is pretty much wanting to do something. And she said, it's just a part of you. Don't forget the rest. And she's pretty much remembering what Blake told her. And I believe it was I think it was chapter 3 when that happened. And it actually helps bring Penny back to herself. Like, it gets through to her. And like, her and Nora have this cute little moment. And Clown's like, you need to get back here now, because he just doesn't know what to do. So here's Willow. I'm guessing this is her room that she runs into.
I think so, because there's a picture of 3 kids.
And
her scroll.
Her alcohol is there and all that.
Huge part of me when I first saw her, that scene right there, I was thinking, like, she hesitated to grab the bottle. I'm thinking, please, even if it's off camera, don't let her grab the bottle. Let her grab the scroll instead.
And that's what happens.
What she does.
Yeah.
She breaks the bottle.
Yeah.
So I think she's, because of, seeing Weiss, Whitley, everything going on, I think she is trying to stop.
So the Hound busts into the Schnee Manor. This had so much Hound of the Baskervilles vibe to me that I was like, this is a horror movie, like, through and through. And then Weiss follows it in, and it's very ominous and quiet. She's like, easily, like, she's tiptoeing pretty much in, like, the mansion's very quiet. But then, Willow screams, above you. The Hound drops down, hits Weiss, and Weiss's aura flickers. So this thing is so freaking strong. It's weakening aura big time with just one hit. It doesn't fight Weiss for very long because it sniffs some of Penny's blood that's on the floor and it takes back off. And then we learn that Willow is using her scroll to use all the security cameras in the manor, and she's following the Grim, letting know Weiss where it is. And they said it's acting strange. That's because this Grim
isn't normal.
Isn't normal whatsoever.
And she asks, can you kill it?
Yeah. And, she's asking, why is it here? Because right now, even, they don't know, even though Weiss should know because she was there when Ruby said it's after Penny. So, Willow is following it, and then we realize it's going where Whitley is. And why?
That's the next point that you could smell Penny's blood.
Yeah, because when it goes to the scene of Whitley, it starts at the blood that's on him, and then it pans out. So it smells Penny's blood on him. For some reason, you would think the strongest point would be where Penny actually is, but I guess it's going off actual how dogs use their scent, so maybe
they're
that's
just finding any trace of it and following it.
Yeah. So this was creepy.
He was getting, at first he was getting pissed, he didn't want to hear his mother.
Yeah.
And then he got pissed off because the door started opening, and then he realized it's not one of them.
Yeah. So he hides behind, and this thing is sniffing around and all that, and then it
was all the middle of all the typing. He was getting.
Yeah, and it eventually says, "I know you're here." It's like, oh
and
my
his face,
gosh.
he goes oh my god,
this thing is talking. And
then we hear, credentials verified.
Yeah, so, and that's when it says, "I know you're here." But if you didn't watch the if you didn't read the DC comics, yes, Willow can summon her as well because she's the one that carries the actual Schnee bloodline. So she summons. Is it called a boar tusk? Is that what the name of that Grim is?
I think so.
Someone's going to grill me if I got that wrong, but it rams against the Hound against the wall, and Whitley starts running, but then he remembers.
Goes, oh, wait.
Yeah, and then he turns around. He puts in the order, so now the cargo ships can be used to help the people in the crater. Will it go as planned? The way this volume has gone so far, probably not. But we gotta get a victory somewhere.
Yeah, that may be the one victory is getting all the people out of there. But the thing is because he submitted, we don't know exactly what, but we know he submitted an order and he probably directed all their drones, the ships, the transport, and those the robotic, the ones that are the robotic people that worked at the shipping company.
Mm-hmm.
They He probably directed all of those to get all the people out and onto the ships and out of there, which that would just take a matter of putting an order in. So,
so the Hound yeets the summons and is chasing after them. Boy, that looks seconds before disaster.
Yeah.
This thing is chasing them through the hallways until Weiss puts up an ice wall. Very, very, because this thing was on their heels, it was diving for them. And she says, I didn't
forget you.
And a lot of people have already noted that they've added sweat to the characters.
This was a huge family building thing for them in this episode. Well, everybody, and I'm so happy to see.
Everybody expected the Atlas arc to be Weiss's arc, but really it's been the Schnee's arc for a good bit. Jacques, you can just yeet him. He's...
After Jacques was gone,
the family has slowly but surely started to rebuild.
Yeah, and I should say since the start of her seeing we first saw Willow.
Yeah.
From there, it's really started building and knowing the detail that Whitley does not hate Weiss. It's what his father was putting in his head to make him act that way. Yeah. And now that he is seeing what a monster their father really is, he's changing. I mean, yeah, he still has an attitude. He's going to for a while. I mean, it's him. It's not going to miraculously change. But this was the development they needed to see for their family to start gathering back together as the true Schnees.
And I mean, that's not to forgive exactly all that Whitley and Willow have acted in the past. You learn more about how Willow used to be in the DC comics and all that. But I'm wondering, everybody theorizes that Weiss is going to take over the STC. What if she decides not to? What if she decides to stay on as a huntress? And what if this is more building blocks for Whitley to still take over, but
to do it
the correct
the
way.
correct way.
So that might be a
to
thing.
actually honor their family name, not destroy it.
Yeah, and I did like this little moment, between mother and daughter, because we've barely seen them act with each other, and I mean, in Volume 7, it wasn't exactly a good interaction. So
and
that
seeing
was nice
his
to
reaction
see.
also, being around Blake and stuff like that, it doesn't seem he has as much of a problem with Faunus as his father did either.
Yeah. So Blake is still fighting the Grimm. Ruby's out cold on the ground right now. And as we can see, this stuff that is spewing out is acid. It is smoking. So yeah, you don't want to get hit with it.
It's not burning a hole in the ground, but it could probably kill you.
Yeah. So
or at least weaken you, burn you, whatever.
So this Grimm seems to be a little bit too much for Blake to handle on her own, because not saying that Blake is weak, but I think it's like, let's put it this way. If the RWBY girls were like classes from like an RPG or something, she would be like a ninja, or like not really there to do a bunch of damage, more stealth kills and all that. So I'm not saying her or Gamble is probably not strong enough to take this thing on by herself, but you got to remember, they're going on how many hours probably without any sleep.
They've probably got an empty tank here.
Nearing it. Like all we've seen them ingest from the end of Volume 7 now is a cup of tea or coffee or whatever. I'm guessing it was tea, because Blake doesn't drink coffee and she was going to drink that. So
the cup was a teacup, but it's just. Yeah, that would give you something, but...
Mm-hmm. And, like, the whole time she's saying, Ruby, I need you here, we all need you. It's
and I don't
more...
know if you can hear me, but, she's trying to reach her anyway.
Her saying we all need you, it's more pushing that Ruby is...
the driving force.
Yes, and that's what they've been needing to do, because she's been doubting herself for so many episodes. Once again, Blake using her shadow clones along with Dust. It feels like it's been forever since we've seen her use her shadow clones for a while. But eventually it does grab a hold of her. It looks like that this thing wants to munch on her. And Ruby slices the thing like a really hot piece of pizza. It was so funny that we thought this Grimm was going to be this monstrous monster in the mid-season trailer. It didn't last an episode. But she was like, I heard you, and they get up, they recover, and they head back in. They hear Penny scream, because once again, whatever Watts did is still playing havoc with her, and she says, I'm sorry, and she gives in. I don't know if gives in is the right word.
It just takes over for that moment.
And it's really scary, because she's walking very robotic. It's really unsettling, really.
To me, I still think, like I said, especially for the fact of how much she is able to fight whatever he did.
Mm-hmm.
As much of a genius as he is, something's got to give, because his stuff ends up failing in the end.
Well, here's the thing, though. It's wild, because whatever he did, it's got a will of its own in a way, because what we see later in this episode, it's not like he's actively doing something.
He can't.
So it's wild. So poor Klein gets yeeted once again. He got pushed around so many times this episode. Poor Nora, all Nora can do is lay there
and look at her.
It's kind of comical, because she's just like, well, I tried. That's all she can sadly do, is just lay there, because she's still in no shape to do anything. So Whitley and Willow make it to the main hall, and okay, this, it didn't hit me when I saw it in the reaction, but after watching it back, it's like, oh my gosh, that is awful. So she walks by them, and Whitley's like, what are you doing? And she says, I must open the vault, and let's see if I caught it here. And self-terminate.
So Watts, he's not doing. I can guarantee that's not what Ironwood wanted. So
No,
this is that thing that he wants.
But it's like, open the vault and then do yourself in. That is dark. No wonder they named this episode Dark. It's not just because it's night out. This is a dark episode. And RWBY has shown in the last few volumes they don't care to get dark, which is why I prefer the later half of this series, because it's way darker. I love darker themed stuff. You can ask her, like, what's my favorite Star Wars movie? Empire Strikes Back, because it's a way darker film. Even though people crap on the prequel trilogies, I love Revenge of the Sith because it's a dark, like, you know, it's like on Twitter, everybody's like, RWBY Twitter, how scared are we? You know, and I'm like, I'm not scared. Bring it on. You know, I like the darker, more angsty stuff. I always have. But anyway, she's just going to walk right out of here. But the Hound Grimm's like, you ain't going nowhere, you know? And it's funny, like, she
just stops it. Like,
yeah, like, at first, she's like, no. You know, I was ready for her to, like, just boot it out behind that window behind it, but it sprouts a third arm, and, like, before, like, when it grabs her, she comes back out of it.
She flickers out of it, yeah.
And it just slams her down, like a meat hammer on a steak, and succeeds in knocking her out. And as it's pounding her to the floor, it's saying, was it get the girl or take the girl?
Take the girl.
Yeah, it's just repeating that. It's really unsettling. Now,
RWBY's had enough.
Yeah, my nuts and bolts heart was like really happy with this. And when she says that's enough, you can hear the anger in her voice. Like, she has had enough, and she uses her silver eyes. Now, here's the thing, though. It didn't do to this Grimm what it normally does. It stunned it for sure, like, and I guess maybe hurt it a little bit because it stumbled out of the window, but it didn't petrify it and didn't kill it. So I had a little bit of a theory that since Salem called it an experiment, that I
have a theory that I had mentioned on Twitter that I will touch on here in a minute.
But my theory was, what if Silver Eyes has no effect on it? So I was kind of right in a way, because it didn't do what it normally did to a normal Grimm, but it still affected it. So, but it lets go of Penny, and she rolls down the stairs, and, you know, Weiss and Blake start tending to her, and RWBY's just watching. But I knew the moment they didn't pull away from this, I was like, oh, it's not over. And the music kicks in. I was like, oh no. And yep, the Hound is still alive. And
first thing we see is that. And then this is where my theory kicks in, especially since we knew.
Well, before you get into that, let's see what we got here. We have got a person who has been Grimmified, like turned into a Grimm. He's a Faunus. A lot of people have said the way his skin looks, he may have been a corpse that Salem uses. But the big thing, and this may be why her silver eyes didn't affect it the way that it normally would, he's got silver eyes. Okay, go ahead.
All right, so I had the whole thought that, yeah, everyone that's, you know, known me, seen my posts, I've truly believed from the beginning Summer's not dead. Well, this is further kind of pushing that theory on it. Because we see the silver eyes, we saw what RWBY's eyes did to this thing. It stunned it, but what it's done is it started to peel back the Grimm off of the person that's in it. But we can tell he's too far gone to really probably save. But her eyes were pulling the Grimm off of his skin, because you could see, look what it's done. Because we don't know how long infused that he's been in this. But my theory is what if this is her first experiment with this? She could have others locked away in cells that they can't get out of.
That are waiting to be experimented
obviously
on.
We know she has the powers to keep somebody with silver eyes locked in a room and not do anything about it. I mean, come on, Cinder's half Grimm. Well, part Grimm anyway. Mm-hmm. And we saw that was another thing, like leaning back, is seeing what RWBY's eyes did to that arm. So that tells me that because it didn't affect Cinder herself, it just affected the Grim arm. So it would peel the Grim off of whoever that is. Now, if they were too far gone, like this guy, it's obviously, it probably wouldn't have been pretty getting all the Grim off of him. But her eyes could potentially, if Salem tried this again to somebody else, could potentially take the Grim off of the person inside. And, I mean, whatever would be left is what's left. But, I mean, it's just further pushing the fact that I think Salem, there's more to this. If this person has silver eyes, Summer could really be alive, and that chance is growing more and more. And I know I saw Arnold post no body, no death.
Yeah, even like the moment this happened, Arnold was like, "Holy crap, this changes so much."
And I've been pushing this since the beginning. I mean, I've wholeheartedly believed that Summer's not dead. I know things have been stated, and I really don't think she is. Because nobody knows what happened to Summer. I think Salem has her. I think she's locked away somewhere. I don't think she's a Grim. If she is, she wouldn't be that far gone either. But the thing is because of how powerful Summer probably was, seeing as how powerful
Salem might be saving her.
She might be saving her for the
once
the final
experiment.
Products. Once her experiments have gotten to where she wants them. Because you gotta think, when you make something, you're gonna make a ton of experiments of it before you do a final product. Well, this is probably what Salem's doing. So, I don't think she's dead. That also leads me to another thing, because remember I had said, Raven's got connections to everyone she's been in close contact with. I know I have said before, what if something happened that cut off her connection to Summer? Well, Salem could have cut off that connection to Raven, and between Raven and Summer, so she would never be able to find Summer. I think that's another thing that goes with that. I don't think Raven can get to her, and that kind of further pushes that fact, too.
This is horrifying.
Yeah.
Like, this is pure nightmare fuel. The fact that if in I think it was volume 4 when Hazel said, about the Silver Eyes, we've dealt with her kind of before. If this is where most of the Silver Eyed people went to, it's terrifying to think of, that they may be in these, being held somewhere, being tortured and being conditioned to be turned into Grim, and it kind of somehow being the super Grim that Silver Eyes can't fully work on. It, like, this was like, I couldn't, like, let's see if like Ruby's reaction to it is enough to, like this was everybody's reaction to this whole thing. Like, I love that they started giving sweat now to the characters, because they never sweated before this.
I have something else too.
But
that fight that they showed of young Maria. What if that was another thing to try to gather? You either take someone with silver eyes, you weaken them and take them, or what they did and took her eyes. That could have been another thing. They could have been trying to take Maria.
Also, could that be why Salem doesn't want Ruby dead?
Probably is.
Yeah, so...
Because we've seen that, there's obviously a lot of other silver-eyed people that existed, but Ruby's, probably like her mother's, is very powerful.
Yeah. So, after the whole shock of that, Blake and Weiss pick up Penny and they're trying to get away, and the only one standing between them and this monster is Ruby, and he completely backs them up. And as he's walking, like,
he's trying to flip the head back, his head back over.
And by the time we get to right before this happens, it's fully back on.
There was a glimpse that Whitley pointed to that. Statue.
He looks at it and then he pats Willow, and that's what happens. They pretty much push an entire statue on top of the Hound, and that is how the Hound's defeated, is by a giant statue
but
falling
obviously
on it.
It didn't. That Hound lasted at least a while.
Yeah, and
it showed that it's going to take more than just regular methods to get rid of this thing. And I mean, the thing is, I think another thing is Ruby. Like, we'll get to the shocked face and all that. Like, seeing that it's a person. They could have, like, that fits with my theory too, that we probably thought she could probably continue to do something with her eyes to get it off and try to save the person, but this one, obviously, something, cement, marble, whatever it was made of.
There's some really cool choir singing right here. Like, it's just terrifying. Like, it fits so well with this. And it shows, like, the hound's arm, and it, like, starts disintegrating a little bit. And, you know, Weiss is like, what was that? And Ruby simply falls to her knees and says it was a person. And she's just, like, horrified. And that's all that's left is the skeletal remains of this thing. And I thought the episode was over right there. But no, it's not. So here's the thing. This is back to what we were talking about earlier. Like,
all the other, now, because that's where the cells were there, it looks like.
Yeah. So, at first, it kind of looks like Cinder has a look on her face like, what the heck happened here? But I don't know. It's also really, really looked like it is her that did this. And at first, she's like, for the first time, I'm glad to see you. And he tries to say something. She covers his mouth and says, there's something she's wanting from him. So I have a feeling once again this is Cinder going against Salem's wishes, and she's going to use Watts herself. Yeah, it's my turn to ask for something, and I'm trying to see if I got a picture of the area, but I don't think I did. Anyway,
you can still see behind him.
The cells that were up are gone now.
Yeah.
So we don't know where Crow is. We don't know where Robin is. We don't know where Jacques is. We've already said enough on it, but there's a lot of confusion here because it seems like if you look right here, a little bit of time has went by from the initial explosion to her getting him. So I don't know. We'll have to see if anything's shown next week. Which, that's my other complaint about this episode. The 100th episode, we don't see or even mention Yang. She is one of the main protagonists, and the only part of the whole freaking episode 100 is the intro. That's it. How do you leave Yang out of the 100th episode? Anyway, Cinder gets away. They're whooshing away, and that's it. So yeah, RWBY is back. Miles wrote this episode, so Miles could be a horror writer at this point. I think it was him and Carrie that wrote the Apathy episode, so they need to get together and write a horror series, a short animated horror series, because I think it'd be amazing. I don't think there's anything else I can say about this I haven't already said. Great episode. I love when RWBY turns into a horror series. It's so amazing. Great character interactions, great build up, a horrific reveal. There's
horrific reveal that's opened a lot more possibility, I think, to theories we've been wondering about and building on. So
yeah, so we'll just have to see what happens. We got 6 more episodes to go.
The one thing that went right was Whitley, what he did in the order he'd submitted. So.
Well, Crow and Robin are now free. We just don't know. There are still some things that we need to learn about that. And they got the cargo ships on the way to the crater. So
that's what I meant. Whitley...
small victories, but small victories nonetheless. The Hound's defeated, but there's probably more. Anyway, that was our analysis of RWBY, Volume 8, Chapter 8. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, click that like button, leave us a comment, tell us what you think. Was that in fact Crow? Are they trying to mislead us here and maybe Raven is involved somehow? Probably not. But
she was one of the only ones that was not seen.
But yeah, just let us know what you think. As always, guys, this is Kanan.
This is Jessie.
We love you all very, very, very much. Please take care of yourselves. Stay safe out there. Stay warm. And we will see you in the next one.
Bye.
Bye.